right, I'm going to call the meeting to order, if that's all right with everyone.
Bill, you all set?
Thank you. 7 o'clock. Economic Development Commission meeting, Grafton Municipal Building, Monday, March 2nd, 2020, 7 p.m., room F. Going to introduce Chris McGoldrick, who is the Grafton new town planner. Congratulations, Chris.
Thank you.
Welcome,
Happy
Chris.
to be here.
Welcome. Good stuff. We had a nice intro lunch, I guess, with John and I, so it was great to sit down with you. You came from a neighboring town, and we won't mention, and we'll go from there.
Yep.
Go ahead. Got a couple things?
Yeah, so I kind of just, I just wanted to kind of say hello and kind of put a face to a name. Obviously, the planning department wants to give, support as much as possible, so feel free to reach out to me if there's any kind of concerns or anything that we can do to help. We do have, we're working through a couple projects that we may try to come with some ideas that we may need support from you as well. So although those are kind of in the planning phase right now, we'll definitely have more discussions on that. So
Great. Welcome.
thank you.
All right. Can we have do we want to approve the minutes? Do we have a motion to approve?
I make the motion.
Okay, in a
So
second?
moved.
Yeah. All in favor?
Aye.
Awesome. So that's done. Okay, conflict of interest law, acknowledged sign form, right? We got that here somewhere?
Yeah, do you have
Yeah, it's
a,
in your packet, right
Okay,
there.
all right.
Here's
So
a form if you don't
Make
have
sure
one.
that I'll collect those prior to everybody's leaving, if they're
Most of us are all set
all set.
already.
You're the only one that has to
Submitted.
sign.
I'm the only one.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh.
Duly on it. I'll sign it and get it over to you guys.
All right.
Fair enough. Nice. Man, we're cruising. Update on Shop Grafton.
We have our winners for the Shop Grafton. We drew them at Bushel and Peck's, and the winners are Chris Hanna.
You know what? If you could hold on for a second, John. Give everybody an idea, an overview. Our guests in the online or on the airwaves here, an overview of Shop Grafton.
Okay. Shop Grafton is our version of Shop Local, and about 20 years ago, American Express started Small Business Saturday, which is when they encourage people to go out and shop small businesses on Saturday. Over those 20 years, the landscape has dramatically changed. The internet's come into play. And instead of just competing against big box retailers, they're now competing against the internet. And we feel that it's very important to support the local businesses and restaurants in town, because that's what makes the town enjoyable, the town centers. And the town does that through a program called Shop Grafton MA, which runs from the Friday after Thanksgiving to Christmas Eve. And the EDC puts up some money, and we purchase some prizes, and we encourage people to go to 10 different stores or restaurants, you get their card stamp, and then they can use that card to enter to win a raffle.
It was our second year, and overall, I think we probably increased the number of participants up by at least, I would say, 100, right?
It's significant. I don't know the exact number, but
Okay.
and the thing that I liked about this year was that the goal was to expand the number of people who participated, and we were able to get people who did not live in Grafton to participate, which works out well for the retailers, because now it's more people coming into their stores.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's great.
So you want to announce the winners of the raffle?
Sure. Chris Hanna won Nintendo Switch. Megan Weber won the Apple Watch. And Al Lazaro won the Fitbit watch. Quite Fetching, Pet Barkery had a gift certificate, and that was won by Jason Joseph. I want to reverse those names. Off the Com Antiques also put up a gift certificate, and that was won by Kara Stewart. Pecorino's had a gift certificate, and that was won by Melissa Hadley. And Truth Organic Spa had a gift certificate, and that was won by Jen DeVoe.
Great. And I think overall, I think for a second year, I think it was very successful. And any other thoughts or comments? Irene?
Same thing?
Yeah.
No, I thought it was successful. I did send you that picture, but I didn't see it online, so.
Yes, I did not put it online because I couldn't find it when I was posting.
Okay.
Morgan, any comments, thoughts? No? All right, great, thank you. All right, update on the Grafton Gateway, the old DPW site for redevelopment.
Yeah. Things are progressing. Nothing significant to report. I think it's important that the town, or at least the EDC, look at that as a way to generate revenue for the town to help with the budget, and a mixed-use property, I think, would be ideal there. And
Both John,
What was the feedback you got from the event they had at Apple Tree Arts?
Apple Tree Arts, basically, it boiled down to really three categories: senior housing, retail / mixed use, and I put them together because I don't think a portion of the public understands what mixed use properties are. And also, some people would like to see a park or nature.
Green space?
Green space. I think two things. One is when they had the conversation at Apple Tree Arts, if they brought it to a park or open space or whatever, I don't think anybody realized the cost that would be involved in that, and that simply didn't come up. So if it costs $750,000, $1 million, that's not necessarily going to help the town reduce the tax burden, but actually will be a burden on the residents of Grafton. The senior housing makes a lot of sense in the sense that proximity, they're close to the center, and they need a place to live. There seems to be a limited number of options. If we went with the mixed use, on the bottom floor, you could have retail, maybe you have another floor of office space or whatever, and then you have apartments or condos above that, and that could accommodate the senior housing. So you're actually getting use out of two of the three. And the fact is, if they design the property correctly, it could be a cut through between the super park at the library and the park behind it. So conceivably, I could see all three being done, with some additional parking spaces to support around the common.
and I thought the meeting was well attended. There was a good crowd there,
Yep,
and they displayed, I guess, 5 different options.
yes.
Chris, have you seen those options?
I did, in a kind of preliminary, I did review some of the survey results, but,
Okay. Any
not-
feedback
not-
that you
not in
wanted to
much detail
disclose?
yet. I haven't reviewed it in that much detail yet, other than a kind of a cursory review, but, I'll definitely take a look at that in
I thought
more
it was a
detail.
well-put-together presentation.
Yes.
Didn't you think so, Karen?
did. Yeah,
Morgan,
it
I'm
was.
sorry, yeah. Awesome. All right, you went there?
I
as
was
well?
there, yep.
I didn't
Well,
see
we
it.
had to leave partway through, but I
Yeah,
was
I did
there
too.
for the beginning of it.
But it's gonna have to be rezoned, if that's the case, correct?
Yeah, so, yeah, I think currently the zoning wouldn't, depending upon which
comes- what the
one
outcomes
was
are,
chosen,
right.
was chosen, I think a mixed use would require a rezoning.
Rezone.
It wouldn't, or
It
would?
would.
I believe it would, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I think, as John pointed out, that's probably the most economically beneficial type of use for the property, for Grafton purposes. But obviously, we all have our own thoughts and things like that. But from a commission point, I think obviously one of our main goals is to drive the tax revenue for the town.
Right.
Lord knows we need it. And with that, I think, that's kind of what we're kind of lobbying for. Is that the right term, John?
Yeah, and honestly, I think if you had an appraiser come in and value the property, they're gonna say highest and best use would be mixed use if the zoning
Right.
aligns.
I agree.
Have there been any additional environmental testing there to assess the degree of?
I'm going to defer that to Tim because I don't know anything to the extent that I'm comfortable talking about it.
That's fine.
Okay. Any other thoughts, comments? Awesome. Thank you. Business plan seminar.
Business plan seminar went very well.
Awesome.
Sean, who's not here, was actually one of the people that attended.
Awesome.
We had 17 attendees
Wow, nice number.
with a variety of businesses. And I think those seminars are very important because as we talk about mixed use for the future former DPW site and 8 Pine Street, I think I want us to have opportunities to select the businesses that would be best for the town.
Right.
Now, obviously, we aren't going to necessarily own the property, but the person or company that does is going to select the best businesses. And if we give them more opportunities to select, that means they're going to select the ones they feel are best.
Now, if my memory serves me correctly, we had about 30 last time?
Yeah, we had about 30 last time.
So, I mean, that's a significant number of people that are looking to either start or grow their business. The total is close to 50 people.
Yes.
Entrepreneurs coming into the area, trying to get guidance from us.
Yes,
I think that's a very positive thing. Would
Oh,
everybody
I
agree?
believe you.
absolutely.
Yeah, I agree.
So, again. Any other thoughts on that?
No, I think the next seminar we're going to look at is bank financing.
Okay.
You show people how to write the business plan. Next thing you need to do is to show them how to get the money, how to talk to a banker. Don't ask me why, but some people are intimidated by bankers.
I don't have any idea why.
Oh, I have some stories.
Yeah.
Go into it.
Yeah, we'll go there. Moving right along.
Only when they say no.
Yeah, exactly.
Many, many times, yeah.
Well, I think understanding how a banker thinks, the reality is, as a banker, if things go perfect as you want them to do, the banker simply gets back the money they lent to the person with a couple of dollars of interest. And if something goes wrong, the banker then has a problem. So you understand their logic and be a little bit more conservative than we desire. And it really comes down to positioning yourself in the best light to the banker. The banker is going to evaluate your business plan because that's how they're going to know you actually thought it through. And they're going to review that plan to see how logical it is.
John, I'd like to add, if there's an opportunity in the bank financing portion, to also have someone talk about small business grants and loans.
Well, we could talk about loans. I don't know what's out there for small
We
business
need to find
grants.
somebody that can help.
Um,
There are grants out, there's advertising, there's,
We can look into it.
Teach
Do some-
teach
yeah.
people how to search.
right.
Yeah.
I think, Clark University has a small business.
Yes, score.
Score.
well, they have a
No,
score,
it's
but I
it's
don't know.
different. So
I don't-
that's what I'm as an ask. Can we find someone that can help small business in the area secure some kind of, grants, loans?
No, but I'll look to see if we can find out if there are opportunities for them to learn about them opportunities.
Yeah.
I'm not promising them grants, and that's what you just asked.
No, can we find somebody that knows, can talk about that?
I can
Okay,
look
no,
into
yeah.
it, yeah.
Yeah.
That can help them learn how to search for them.
Right.
Yes.
I was gonna get in line, get in line for that.
I'm sorry, what?
I was gonna get in line for that.
A grant? Yeah.
Oh, boy.
I mean, I just applied for a UPS grant that's online for
Nice.
small business.
Yeah.
There's stuff out there, but how do you find it?
Yeah.
Because I think I think you'll get a
Well, you did. I don't think there's any one-stop shop to find grants. I think you gotta hunt.
Mo's Grill. Doreen, I believe, is a grant writer. She's found a lot of money for environmental stuff, so maybe she can speak to that.
Well, my experience is when it comes to grants, they tend to be more mission-driven. Oh, you're helping soldiers, you're helping
Nonprofit,
school children, nonprofit type things. I'm not familiar, and I'm gonna have to do some research to find grants for-profit businesses.
Well, yeah, the government would be one of them because they do want to encourage you know, small, even micro businesses,
Yeah.
also women-owned,
Right,
minority-owned.
exactly.
Not that we would qualify here in Grafton, but economically distressed areas. So the
Right.
government actually is willing to give out a fair amount of money to for-profit businesses.
Okay.
Grafton is actually in an economic distressed area
Are
for
we?
grants.
Interesting.
Because I was looking for brownfields. So
Okay.
there's money out there
Oh.
for, like you said, women-owned business.
Okay.
There's stuff out there, but how do you find it?
Right, help people to learn how to search. Like, I went searching, just because I was curious, to get information on the SAFER grant that we are hoping to, that the fire study
The
people
fire.
were supposed to have, you know, applied to on our behalf. And you had to do a lot of digging. It was very interesting trying to get information on that. In terms of information that would allow me to apply this year, if that's what I wanted to do. I could find information about what the grant was,
Right.
but I couldn't necessarily find what I needed if I was going to apply today. You know, so if I was the person trying to do this, I'd be like, now I stopped at some point. I was like, oh my God, this is frustrating.
I think, start with Doreen first, because she and I talked about, but I can't use her because she's a town employee and I'm on EDC, so, but I think she's got
Okay.
contacts or ways that she can maybe pull somebody in that can talk.
Some type of reference.
Yes.
Right.
Okay,
Okay,
fair enough.
absolutely. I'll look into that.
Thank you.
Thanks, Morgan. That was awesome. Review and discuss proposal for parking bylaw change around the Grafton Common.
Yeah,
We all saw what happened to the Grafton Common, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I know.
That was
what
terrible.
happened?
The Christmas tree's
Massive
gone
tree
and one big
Fell
tree's
down
gone.
on the street and took out a couple pieces of fencing, and it was a disaster.
And took
When did
down
that
another
happen?
tree with it.
A couple days ago.
A couple days ago.
Oh,
Wind blew it down.
Yeah.
I haven't
Thursday,
made
I
a-
think.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Last
was it
Thursday.
It ended up being 2 trees, right?
Yeah.
Didn't it
Yeah.
take, it took down, as it was coming down, it
took on-
decided
took
to
down
take
another
another
one.
tree with it.
The town Christmas tree is gone.
Yeah, but that one
really?
kind of needed to come down.
It was scraggly, but,
It was more of a Charlie Brown tree, I guess.
It was,
Well, I think they're
but it
gonna,
was our Charlie Brown tree.
when they redo the common, I think they're gonna find more distressed trees up
Yeah.
I
there.
think you're
Yeah.
right. So, any insight on that?
what is this?
Well, basically, we have a situation where 12 Grafton Common, it's currently, or was, the office of a financial planner. That piece of property has become available. We were trying to put a dentist in that same space, but that couldn't work because of parking limitations. So the concept we had was to rewrite the parking regulations around the common, which allows people to park within, pick a number, 200 feet of the location. And basically what we're going to do is to mimic Westborough's zoning for around their common.
Okay.
And I was awaiting some information that I haven't received yet.
So this would allow a business to count spots on the common towards their requirement?
Yes.
Okay.
So, and again, we talked about, we come up with formulation of what we think works. We aren't the board that makes the final decision. We'd have to go before the
CBA, would you?
selectmen, the planning board, and get their support before any type of changes could be made, because we're talking zoning. And Chris here, who's the town planner, could talk about the process of changing zoning.
Yeah, so I mean, to change zoning would be a town meeting vote, but, yeah, so that would be the process, is you would draft it, you would get the support of various boards, such as the planning board, you can go through that review process. Obviously, having a kind of public workshop beforehand always helps kind of build that support before you get to the town meeting process, and it helps to build that foundation, and then, when you get to the town meeting vote, see where that lands, so.
Right.
I feel like
Town
it was,
meeting.
it was square footage, because I remember when we were trying to buy the building, it became a existing non-conforming building, but if you look at how the parking bylaw was written, we needed like 20 parking spaces, but there was no way you hit 20, so, and the same when the tavern went in at 1 Grafton Common, based on square footage, there's just,
Right.
nobody meets that.
Right.
Yeah. So the next step is to acquire the Westboro copy and then present it
Right.
to us to review and then make a recommendation to go to,
Right, well, I think you want to review it, probably see if we need to tweak or adapt it to Grafton. Even if it's providing a foundation, there's probably going to still be some customization
Yeah, I don't
involved.
think it's
Square
something that's easily taken from one to the other. It has to be
well,
kind
the
of,
rate, we'll see who's included in the
Right,
neighborhood,
exactly.
right?
We would also have to see whether or not that would potentially include, I think it might be too far away, but would it include the old high school land on Worcester Street that we've talked about trying to maybe put some parking there? In other words, not all parking. Nobody just wants a parking lot there, but even if we got, 6 to 8 spots, or did you ever figure out how many we could get? But anyway, you could have one small strip of parking at the beginning of that, still have your open space, but that would certainly be useful.
What's the radius? Yeah, what's that neighborhood? How
Yeah,
big
that-
do you go
Yeah.
out? And will that apply to the DPW property?
Right,
that
how-
separate?
Yeah, how many feet is it? Who would it apply to?
Yeah.
Because it would be part of a package. In other words, you can go to town meeting, and instead of just saying, well, we want to let businesses do this, say, here's our plan for the entire common area.
Right.
And I think that needs to be part of it. Also, and I know the library knows this, and I should know it because I'm on the library building committee, how many spots are there going to be at the library? And so that would be a good thing to know. So that can be, again,
Oh,
presented as
counted in
part
the-
of this total plan.
Yeah.
That makes sense,
okay. But you're waiting on a document, John, and
yes,
I guess when you get that, you're gonna let us take a peek at it?
absolutely.
Perfect.
That's the old bank building.
Is that, yeah, where is 12 Grafton Common?
That's the old,
Right
The
next
one
to
next to
the,
the-
right next to the
behind
country
the-
store.
Yeah, it's the little building.
Building right
It's that
across-
little red brick
Next
building
door.
up there,
Boutique?
with the fitness,
No, the one right
the
next to it.
financial thing up
Yeah, it
there.
used to be
Oh.
there.
I don't, where the heck is that?
It's just to the left of Fit Boutique.
Yeah.
To the
so
left of, oh, okay.
yeah,
Left?
right.
Oh, a dentist wants to go
There
there?
used to be a bank.
Really? Yeah,
Yeah.
branch office for bank, yeah.
So what's happened to this business right now? Are they in a holding pattern because of this? Or is it
Um,
existing
well,
non-conforming?
The person who owns the building has moved out of town and they can no longer deal with the commute to Grafton. So that's what prompted them to decide to sell it.
Well, what I'm saying is what, is it, so it's for sale right now? Or does a business want to come in and they're waiting for approval?
A business looked at it and because of parking issues, could not move forward.
Right, he decided not to go with that.
It's on the market.
Yep. Yeah. So that's
Which
not
we-
well,
That,
yeah, there's not much you can do because we're
But we-
talking about a massive process here.
okay, all right.
Would you
Yeah,
agree with
because
that or
We could
not?
not have done anything quick
We
enough to
did.
change
No,
that.
not even close.
No, but we were able to get through because it was, remember, they made us go to ZBA, and the ZBA was upset because we shouldn't have been there in the first place.
So
So
it
it's
would be,
existing non-conforming, and that's why we were able to,
yeah, but it would become incumbent upon the person that's leasing the property or buying the property to go through that process. And they decided not to do that.
they didn't need to do that, is what I'm saying.
That's your opinion.
That's what the opinion of town council had said about ours, so I
Well,
feel bad for that person.
Two
that-
different properties. You're
Yeah,
talking
you
about
can't-
your
you can't
property versus
guarantee
that other
Yeah, you
property.
can't guarantee that theirs
You
would,
can't, there's apples and oranges. We're not talking about your same building. If we were talking about the same building, I would say you're right. But this is directly on the common. So that
Right.
there's a different
They
scenario.
didn't meet a parking requirement.
but it's also a much small, it's a very different footprint.
Right.
Anyway, it
I
is
suggest you
worth-
contact the real estate broker.
Right,
Yeah,
and let
And
I
give
them
them,
know.
feel like
give them,
there's-
Yeah.
give them your counsel. I think that's
You know,
appropriate.
they abut the old fire station property. The old fire station property is in the back, and
Correct.
there's been some scuttlebutt rumors about making parking there.
Well, people just
Public
park there
park.
now
Well,
because
yeah,
it's a
I know,
public
right.
building,
People
right?
just park there now, so.
All right, so, anything else on the bylaws?
Nothing else to add right now.
All right, cool. Introduction of, in discussion with potential EDC members. We think we have a candidate here, Jonathan Nickerson.
Yep.
North Grafton.
Yes.
Grab a seat. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, thanks for coming down.
Yeah.
Thanks for your interest. So what do you think of the meeting so far?
It's good.
Yeah?
Pretty light lifting.
Yeah, I had a discussion with John to talk a little bit about what the commission does, and I talked a little bit with Tim, town administrator, about the same thing, what the
Yep.
commission does, and definitely have some interest in it. Get a background as a cost estimator for a construction company, deal with large commercial construction and institutional construction projects, so have a little bit of a mix of experience, but have a lot of interest in Grafton. Been here for about 6 years. Live in North Grafton, up behind the post office area.
Okay,
So,
off Airport Road.
yep, Hingham Road.
Give us a little background about yourself. You've been in Grafton, where were you prior to that?
I've worked for Consigli Construction for 9 years, almost 10, and my wife and I lived in Rentham before this. I took an opportunity to go out to New York to work in their New York office, in upstate New York in Poughkeepsie area. So we went from Poughkeepsie to Rentham, and then found a house in Grafton. So, though we were looking in Bellingham and Milford and that kind of area, we stumbled upon, across a house here and loved it.
Yeah, we kind of did the same thing when we moved to Grafton 9 years ago, so
Yeah.
kind of a similar scenario. We started someplace else and found out a good value here in Grafton, so. It says here that you had interest in the Conservation Committee as well?
Yes, I went to a Conservation Commission hearing, meeting, met with them. It sounded, I have interest in both, but it sounds like, based on talking to them, that there wouldn't be a conflict with EDC. I'm not sure what your thoughts on that are. It didn't sound like the meetings would actually conflict. And then I don't think there's any other type of conflict there. I've got interest in both, and, I mean,
If I could, and I'll leave it up to other questions from the panel here, I guess. What compels you to be part of this particular commission versus others?
I'd love to see my taxes go down based on bringing more business to Grafton.
So the magic words.
Yeah, you said the magic words.
I'd love to see more businesses come here. I'd like to be involved in trying to, develop properties, through the hearing about the DPW is, sounds like a great opportunity for the town.
Yep.
I'm interested in a lot of accounting and math and the kind of nerdy side of it, so it's, I think, a lot of, there's a little bit of that in the group as well, which interests me, but really want to support Grafton. I've got my family here, and we don't plan on going anywhere. We're comfortable where we are, and I'd love to help improve by drawing business into town, working with the commission, coming up with creative ideas to try and help increase the tax base. And
Great. Now, did you originally come from Maine?
yes,
Okay.
I do.
Whereabouts?
Kennebunk. Kennebunkport.
Well, the other Maine.
Yes, the northern Massachusetts. Yes. No, my parents. I went to high school in Kennebunk, Maine, but my parents just moved out of there and moved down to the Cape. So I've now got a 2-hour commute to go visit them in the other direction. So a little more on Friday and Saturdays, though.
Exactly. Any other questions for Jonathan?
No, I think he answered your questions. I think he has a great interest, a common interest, because we all want to see our taxes go down.
I agree.
And do you have access to prospective clients, since you work for Consigli, within your company, if they're looking for locations and?
Sometimes we encounter that type of client that's looking to build.
Mixed-use property.
We deal with some developers. My focus at Consigli is with institutional and educational projects, so I typically work on K-12 schools, private schools, but I touch pretty much everything, so.
Great.
But yeah, if there was potential clients to convince to come to Grafton, I'd love to push that too, because yeah. I have a 4-year degree from Wentworth in construction management.
You have kids in the school system?
I have a 4-year-old, 4.5-year-old that's,
Soon to have.
he's going to Grafton Public, to North Grafton Elementary for half-day preschool or
Oh, yeah.
whatever.
School program, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, which it's awesome.
That's a
So,
great school, yeah.
yeah, the teachers there are phenomenal.
All of our schools are great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We just
that's,
gotta get them some money.
Yep.
exactly. It's definitely something that drew us to the town. Once we started to look in Grafton, my wife and I were saying that the school districts are very highly rated and lots of great opportunities, so.
Now, have you completed all the paperwork with regards to the town?
I believe so. I filled out, and I know the town website was down for a little bit, because I had the same issue with conservation. I filled out the form with my information, and I guess they had an issue with the website, so I think I'm all set, but I don't know if there's anything else I need to do to express my interest. If I need, I can email information to John or the group.
No, I did get something from, I can't remember who, but
Cindy, I,
Does Ray
Cindy,
appoint?
yeah, Cindy, thank you.
Okay.
Is it the form through the town website?
I don't know, it was a,
I think it was the email
Yeah, email.
of interest.
yeah.
If he has paperwork that hasn't been done, we'll just
Yeah, no, I'm not too
catch up with
concerned
them
about it.
back in.
Yeah, you could call or email or whatever, and I
Yeah.
can work through that.
I don't know if it's appropriate now, but do you want to take a vote?
I don't think you
I
have to,
don't
do
know
you?
if
You
we
don't
take
have
a
to?
vote. I think this was kind of an intro, see if he likes us and we like him.
Okay,
And I think what the next step is, I think you go before the Board of Selectmen to get appointed.
Yes.
Yes.
but
So,
I think we as a committee or a commission, excuse me, can nominate him as a person, right? Why would they send us the information
Well-
asking him to come here if it was a Board of Selectmen scenario?
I think we could send our recommendation to the
That's what I'm
board that he
saying.
be appointed.
Right.
But we can't make we can't make the appointment.
I agree, I understand that.
I
So,
feel like we support, like,
Yeah,
should we,
I mean-
a statement of
a
support?
a
or-
vote of support, how's that?
I'll make the motion to send a vote of support to the Board of Selectmen for his candidacy.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Perfect, that's what I was looking for.
sure.
There we go.
Warm seat.
Nice job, Morgan.
So tomorrow evening, the assistant to the select board actually emailed me to come about the Conservation Commission side of
Okay.
it. But again, as I mentioned, I don't think there's any conflict there, so I'm interested in both.
And you'd be willing to do both?
Yeah.
Awesome,
You're right.
okay. Any other questions from you, Jonathan?
Besides kind of what the initiatives that you talked about this evening, is there anything else that you're focusing on besides the generic kind of increasing the tax base and inviting?
We had a pretty big discussion on signs.
Oh, yeah.
Sign bylaw.
Bylaw, signs.
Sign bylaws is something
We had to
that's,
push back on the back burner because it's gonna take a little more effort to do that through the planning, so.
Sure.
But we did have several meetings where we talked about signs.
3 that I can recall that
Yeah.
were, rather lengthy and
Dry.
dry, yeah. A little dry beyond my taste.
Yeah, yeah, we're trying to hang out with the planning board, but we couldn't do it.
Keep
You
up.
know, obviously with Chris's arrival, John was always in attendance, Joe, I'm sorry, right?
Joe.
Was always in attendance, and I assume Chris is gonna be here when needed. So I think we do have, 8 Pine Street project over by the train station. That's kind of near and dear to our hearts,
The old
right?
state hospital
Okay.
Yes.
property.
Yep,
Yeah.
trying to get more parking for the train station.
Is there RFP out yet?
RFP's out, it's,
It's posted on the sign out in front of it.
What's
yes.
it- Okay.
I've already got one realtor that called me on it, so,
Yeah.
sent him all the information. So they're looking to, move if you drive right by there, the sign's bigger
Oh.
than that.
4 feet by 8 feet.
Yeah, yeah.
And this is on the corner across from the train station,
Yeah.
basically?
Right, right on Pine Street.
Yeah.
It's 8.8 acres. It's zoned for up to 176 housing units.
Oh, well.
The town desires mixed use. We'd like to be compliant with the Massachusetts Historical Commission as well as the Grafton Historical Commission. So what we'd like to do is for people to reuse the buildings to the extent that it makes sense and is economically feasible to do so.
And
Is there-
within-
grant money for that?
Huh?
Is there any grant money for developers for that?
There is a historical tax credit depending on how much you use.
Yeah.
And there's one federal and one state.
I would guess,
So-
I would guess
Has
it'd
to
be
be
a
some
TIF, right?
incentive.
What's that?
I would guess we grant them a TIF,
I don't know, I don't think that.
no?
Depending on the circumstances,
I-
yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know about that.
They
It,
could- The developer could always request a TIF,
exactly, yeah.
Yeah, especially not for residential.
yeah.
Right, and
But this is, with the mixed-use component of it, though, it kind of turns things into a little different
does, yeah.
circumstance.
Yeah,
And let me point out to people at home, a TIF is a tax incremental financing. So if the town collects $1,000 of taxes on the property, you build a building that would be taxed at $10,000, instead of the town simply assessing you $11,000 in tax. What they say is, we'll incrementally increase it over a period of time. So the second year, you may pay $2,000, then third year, $3,000, all the way up to the $11,000. So it's not money the town's handing over. What we're saying is we're gradually increasing the taxes to give you ability to get the property up and leased.
Right.
Because you build a building, it isn't leased the first 6 months or anything like that.
I think it's obviously an attractive property, because if you drive a little further and off to the left, UPS purchased that whole area and is looking at some point to develop a facility there. You know,
We hope.
I
well,
bet they didn't do it.
they don't go and buy stuff for nothing.
right.
They prevent Amazon, right?
Yes. I was gonna say, there may have been some, it's like putting a pond somewhere, could be a defensive move.
It could be a defensive move, we don't know that. But the reason why it is attractive is you have a mixed-use component, you have the truck drivers, you have the facility, the operators, the warehouse people, all there working, buying, living, all those good things. It could be quite a project,
Yeah,
so.
They could have housing for tough students too,
Yep, mixed use.
Housing for tops, housing for
commuters.
Job Corps,
Yeah.
restaurants up there,
Exactly.
retail. It could dramatically change the environment, not to mention, if you live there, how easy it is to walk across the street to get on the commuter rail to go to Boston.
And there's the whole Route 30 corridor
Right.
being developed too. So that's stuff coming up in the next few years.
So you can even take out, to Irene's point, you could take out the whole UPS factor and still have a pretty nice project there.
Right.
I think, one of the things that we looked at is trying to figure out ways in which to get additional parking in that T station. That's a little bit on their side of things, and we were looking at that, and it didn't seem to have much progression. We also looked at the feasibility of a hotel. So we had some funds donated by various entities within the community to do a study on the viability of a hotel. That's something that no one sees, but is obviously being done in an effort to build economic development within the town.
yeah,
And these things, unfortunately, Rome wasn't built in a day, and neither was Grafton.
sure.
So
Yeah,
you have all these things going on behind the scenes, and it's easy to, kind of take pot shots at an economic development commission when we're trying to get things down the road, and nothing happens fast enough for anybody. So, anyways,
Yeah, there's a process to everything. So I'm very familiar with seeing that planning and conscom side of it, and on projects that I'm working on through permitting and all that fun stuff, so.
permitting and zoning and planning and
Town meeting.
town meeting. And then signs.
Signage.
We're gonna skip that one.
But yeah, no, well, thank you for coming, and I appreciate your time, and obviously, you've got our endorsement, and we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, if you need any more information, feel free to call, email, whatever, and I can follow up with information, resume stuff, whatever, so.
Thank you.
Fair enough.
That's great.
Awesome. Thank you.
People
Thanks, John.
volunteering.
Yes, thank you.
Hope to have you on board.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much.
No, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're coming down to the, my favorite topic. Any other matters that may legally come before the commission? Anything?
8 Pine Street, the RFP's out, it's due March 8th.
Ah,
So we'd like to see people submit as much as possible.
It was funny, because, as I mentioned earlier, I got a call from a colleague Realtor of mine, out of Westboro, and the individual called, I think, the day the sign came up.
really?
Yeah, literally. We'd had a meeting with him about 9 months ago, right?
Yeah.
And then, we gave, obviously, we're gonna be looking for RFPs, and sure enough, boom, within a couple of days of the sign, he's all over that. And he's developed some pretty big projects in the area, so we're pretty excited about that.
Yeah, I'm sure we're gonna want some people that can do historic restoration,
Yeah.
I don't know how many of those buildings can be
Sigley's done.
saved. I know they've been,
They're pretty dilapidated, and the overall structure of them might be hard to duplicate, but I know Westboro did their state hospital, and they're turning it into, I don't think that project's off the road, is it off the?
I don't
Did
think
they
so.
level everything?
Yeah, I think they leveled it, I
Yeah.
think.
So I don't-
Because
Yeah.
it was beyond,
Beyond repair,
beyond
so.
repair.
There's gonna have to be a lot of homework done on that.
Now,
Abatement.
how does the RFP process work for this versus a building? Like, the library was easy. We had specifications, and first we qualified everybody, okay, we're gonna allow you to bid. They then bid, and low bid. It all got done electronically. How does this one work? This is not,
In the
The
RFP, there's specific items that we were requesting, and we'll rank them, I think, 3 rankings, highly acceptable, acceptable, or not acceptable. And based on the scores, whoever has the highest scores
Okay.
would be the one selected. And
so there's
it
a
was
bit more,
designed around a criteria that we thought made sense. Would
so
you
we
like
get
have
to make some choices here versus a building where you have to take the low bidder.
Correct,
Is there cost for the property?
yes.
So we've set a sale price, and then we are able to choose amongst
I
whoever.
don't know, I don't know if we set a sales price, because we don't want it simply to be whoever pays us the most for the
Well, they
property.
pay the 8 million,
gets-
plus they have to meet whoever comes to the top.
Well, we're looking to see the project that we like the best, and that's going to be the one that will be selected. And the
so-
price that they're paying is an element of the criteria, but not the element.
Right.
Chris?
Who will be reviewing the RFPs?
So I believe the town manager and I imagine other kind of relevant staff would be involved in reviewing those. But that's kind of as John was saying, that it really is mainly based on those criteria that it's in the RFP. I don't remember exactly which each of those criteria are, but that's going to set up kind of the basis for our discussion, and then obviously the town administrator would review that, and then I believe
Yeah.
the selectmen as well, so.
Yeah, I imagine whoever submit them, they would have maybe presentations from those parties about the RFP, or no?
I'm not sure if there would be presentations, that's something that I
Right.
can look into, but I'm just not sure if that's, at this phase, if that's, or,
Right.
if there's a couple that are close contenders, maybe that would be something that would
That would be maybe
be done, but.
a deciding factor in what kind of presentations and what they looking to do.
If I understood you and I was reading through the lines correctly, you were trying to infer that somebody from the EDC should be on that, if possible, have the opportunity to be part of the decision-making process?
Yeah,
Did I understand that?
yeah, I
Or
definitely
read
think
the-
that would be,
Read the lines correctly?
yes.
Or if there's a different process that is not the same as a typical
Right. in other words,
municipal
my-
property.
My number one question was,
Yeah.
how does this differ from what I went through with the library building? Which is a very straightforward process. We're gonna build a building. Okay, submit your bids. You're the low bidder,
Right.
you get the bid.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no,
Well, I think
question here.
the difference is for that, you had a defined end project.
Right,
So you're saying, here's a project, tell me what your price is.
right, to build it.
For this here,
well,
we don't have that
it
much.
is kind of similar. to the library, when you think about it, because the library, you had to interview architects, they come up with conceptual drawings of the library, right?
Right.
So you had that
Right,
process.
that was the design phase, correct.
Exactly, and that's basically what the
Still a low
RFP
bid,
is. It's
right?
basically the design phase of this particular project.
After that, we were already past that when I
So-
joined the building committee, so I'm
Not
not
quite the
sure.
same, huh?
So my understanding is that the way it kind of differences from the bid process is this is a request for proposals. So once those proposals come in and they get ranked, it really becomes a process of the town vetting which of those they find acceptable in those criteria, and then they can either choose, I believe they can choose, one of those proposals, a number of those proposals that they may want to review further together, or none of the proposals if none of them meet the criteria. So I believe
Oh, I see.
there is that kind of process, and then after that kind of selection is completed, then any additional work that may, depending upon how that proposal falls, they may need to do additional bids or.
Yeah, because I mean, part of the first step in the library thing was qualifying the bidders. So you weren't even allowed to bid on the project unless we had determined, through a very objective process, that yes, you were financially capable, of doing this. You had to be, you have enough backing, a bank, years of experience, previous, et cetera. So if you were someone who had just started your construction company last year, you weren't even gonna be allowed to bid on this. So that
Yeah.
was part of it. Then
Yeah,
once we did that, then they could submit bids, because you wanna make sure your low bidder isn't somebody who's unqualified. 'Cause that's not gonna
Right.
help anybody.
I think the criteria, instead of being a library, it's the criteria. And they have to work towards the criteria.
Okay,
Does that make sense?
Right.
I guess we should just skim the RFP and then
Yeah.
get your
Okay.
questions.
but yeah, I would hope that somebody from EDC is able to be involved in reviewing, the bids, if for no other reason
Well, I would
than
say
to
John's
provide.
kind of-
Right, you would be the logical one, to provide input.
Any other comments, thoughts?
No?
Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good meeting.